'cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave.
Of a human being and extend our life. So people like Elon Musk are interested in this partly for space travel. They think life extension is going to be necessary for space travel, and so they want to be able to extend, the life of a single human being out to centuries to be able to travel through space. But so they all have their different things that they're interested in. But the common feature of this is that through our technology, we can become more than just human beings. We can become like gods. Now, what does that remind you of? Right? You will not surely die. You will become like gods. It's the lie from the serpent in the garden. It's the same thing. It's back in the context of our digital age, in the context of very powerful computer technologies, but it's the same. And a lot of people don't get the connection with paganism, but there's a very direct connection. The ancient pagan world had the similar kind of ideology, a similar kind of transhumanist ideology that I alluded to earlier. The idea that technology and paganism are tied together is a very old idea. The ancient pagans believed that their deities would give them knowledge, would give them divine knowledge. Now, in those days, it was in the form of agricultural knowledge or metallurgy, or knowledge of the heavens and navigational knowledge. But the idea was that this was divine knowledge that could be accessed, that we could get this from divine sources, from the gods. And the twist in our time, in our post-Christian, sort of the emerging neo-pagan world, is that the gods now, according to people like Brian Johnston and according to people like Elon Musk, who said this almost word for word on Joe Rogan, that we are going to create God through AI. We're going to create God, and then this God will give us superhuman powers, divine knowledge, will solve all our problems. And all you have to do to get this is to serve that God. And Brian Johnston is a good example of that. He made his money in AI applications to medical technologies. And his whole life is ruled by these AI algorithms that tell him what to eat, when to sleep, what to do. He's a slave to it. So much so to the point that in pursuit of immortality, in pursuit of a way to cheat death, early on, he experimented with injecting himself with his own 18-year-old son's blood plasma. Now he abandoned that because this was a little throwaway line in the Time profile that was published a couple of years ago. That is a 21st century version of a very old pagan practice, which is the belief that the blood of young people will somehow confer immortal life on the high priests and priestesses of the pagan deity. And so we're going to, it's hard to wrap our minds around this because we think we live in a secular age, but we actually live in a age that is very rapidly re-enchanting. And as Christianity recedes, it doesn't mean that we're going to live in this liberal, secular, rationalist utopia. Secularism and liberalism are dependent on Christian civilization and the Christian religion. And as Christianity declines, those things will decline too. And they're going to be replaced with the new forms of pagan ideology that look to technology as our savior, in a very strikingly similar way that pagans of the ancient world look to technology. And so you're exactly right to point to people like Brian Johnston, and not just him, as sort of avatars of this emerging ideology. I think we're going to hear a lot more about it in the future.
Yeah, well, and there's you mentioned Peter Thiel, and I just wanted to quickly say for the viewers that he is a really interesting guy because he's the founder of course, Palantir. It's a company that collects this vast amounts of internet data on people and analyzes it. For instance, the purpose of pre-crime, but they're a government contractor, and they'll say, well, we can synthesize all this data on regular Americans, and sometimes I'm not even really sure how it's constitutional for them to collect this data, but they do. And then they say, well, these groups of people, these are people who are dangerous, who are potentially domestic terrorists based off of their internet searches or what they're doing. And it's interesting because the name Palantir is based off of this orb in the Lord of the Rings trilogy that allows Sauron, the evil guy, to basically see in all
Everything.
different, see everything. He's like, it's like a god, it's like a little god orb, and that's what Palantir is too. It's like we're able to see everything that everyone's doing and know everything about them. And it's interesting because in the Lord of the Rings, the orb actually is kind of deceptive. It's misleading. One of the hobbits actually gets the orb, and he sees half truths, and so does I think is it Denethor, Michael? Yeah, Denethor has the orb, and he's misled a lot. He's tricked by Sauron. So it's obviously not perfect. You can't be perfect with these technological tools. You will never actually be God. And that
the orb actually deceives Sauron too.
Right.
But
yes.
That's a different thing.
Yeah. So it doesn't work. And so that there's something to be said about that too. It's like this, you think you're going to be God, and it ends up actually being kind of a horror story in every iteration.
You're a slave. You end up being a slave.
Yes.
So and the danger for us is that we will willingly enslave ourselves to these forms of technology that promise immortal life, that promise to solve all our problems, that promise prosperity and wealth and power, and we will submit to them willingly. And I think we can begin to see the broad outlines of that coming into being right now.
And it's incredible. I just want one more thing I have to say, that in your book, you mentioned another book that I ended up actually reading the series of. It's a C.S. Lewis's science fiction trilogy.
Oh yeah.
And one of them is that Hideous Strength. And I was just blown away by this book. Everybody listening, please go read that Hideous Strength, because it was so predictive of everything that we're seeing right now with AI. In that Hideous Strength, there's an organization. It's called NICE. It's supposed to promote science and progress by controlling and manipulating people essentially via advanced science and tech. And they have this thing that is, I guess, helping them, this advanced technology. And the big reveal at the end of the book is essentially that it's a decapitated human head that's possessed by a demon. Like, it's not technological at all. It's not advanced at all. It's actually spiritual, and it's actually demonic. And I feel like there's an element of that in all of these advancements that we're making, where you think that you're really progressive and technological, and it turns out that it's actually regressive, and it breaks things down and opens ourselves up to, I think, the worst of the worst kind of spiritual forces.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the irony is, of course, the scientists in that Hideous Strength, they think that this severed head is being animated by their technology, and they have all these tubes and wires going into this head, and in the end, it's revealed, not to spoil the ending, but it's just a demon that's animating the head, and the scientists are totally enthralled to this malevolent spiritual being, and I think you're right. I think we lull ourselves into thinking that because we have technology and because we have science, because we follow the science, that we can dispense with the idea of this mumbo jumbo about the spiritual world, when in fact the spiritual world and the scientific world of technology are all mixed up together, and they are caught up within it. And if you go high enough up in the world of Silicon Valley and big tech and cutting edge technology, you don't see a bunch of cold hard materialist scientists. You see people who are willing to talk about and entertain, not just entertain, but pursue what they call discarnate intelligences and multidimensional beings who have knowledge that we can download. This stuff is real. It sounds crazy, but it's real, and people are starting to write about it, and word is starting to get out that this is what is going on at very high levels in these companies and in the U.S. government. And it's something I think that we need to start thinking about so that we can be clear about what it is and about where we, as Christians, where we stand in relation to these things.
This, and that's a whole other conversation, John. The way that we, for all of human history, people have documented the spiritual realm having an impact on humanity, and all of a sudden now we're like, it's aliens. It's just extraterrestrial life. That's all it is. I'm like, are we sure it's aliens? Are we sure it's not what humans have been saying?
That's a whole different podcast.
It's totally a different podcast. But John, I'm over time. I am so glad that you were able to actually have this conversation, that you were able to join me. Just so everybody listening knows, John's like the teacher. If you like what I have to say, you will like what John has to say. Go read his work. John, where can people go to follow you and keep up with everything that you're working on? And also buy your book.
Yeah. The book you can get anywhere you get books, Amazon. If you don't want to support Jeff Bezos, you can get it at Thrift Books or in any online bookseller. I'm on Twitter at John D. Davidson. If you do that. And then of course, my main gig is at the Federalist, where you used to be with me and now I'm alone. But thank you so much for having me on, Evita. This is great to talk about this stuff with you. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. So for all of you listening, make sure to drop a comment, hit the like and follow button. If you want to listen to the show and watch the show in its video version, if you're on Apple or Spotify, go to rumble.com/Evita. Follow John. Keep up with what he's doing. He's an amazing guy, somebody who's had a real impact on me, a very intelligent, articulate guy who's making a real impact on the culture, has smart things to say. All right. I will see you all tomorrow.
Yeah. So, the left, they act like they're like, oh, we're not for Hamas. How could we be for Hamas? Hello? You're carrying Hamas's flag with you in the streets of the nation's capital. You're explicitly supporting a terror organization. There's no question here. It's not like, oh, we just support the rights of Palestinian Arabs to live. No, actually, you are carrying Hamas flags because you're advocating for terrorism in the streets of the nation's capital. That's what's happening. So that's, in case you're wondering how cohesive all of this is. It's mindless. It's completely incoherent. Everything you just saw was designed to increase the chaos, not to make it a bait, not to help anybody, not to, help humanity coexist. It's nothing like that. It's sowing division. It's sowing death and destruction. And then, of course, because they can't hide it at all, they're also carrying pro-socialism signs this weekend. Cut 16. Take a look at this. Socialism. Socialism beats fascism. The irony, of course, is they're both. Yeah, all right. So they all got on the streets. They advocate for. Let's go back down the list again. We've got Antifa, that's domestic terrorism. We got the Palestinian flags. They're flying foreign flags on our soil. They're flying Mexican flags on our soil, of course, because, again, foreign flags. They're also flying Ukraine flags, again, foreign flags, in order to sustain wars in that region and more death. They're flying the pro-socialism flags. They're flying the Hamas flag, pretty explicitly a terror organization. And then, of course, I covered they were flying trans flags, transgender flags, LGBTQ. Those are the misogynistic, bigoted flags of a demented political movement that is seeking to hurt women. Oh, that's not good. If you're watching the video, did I just do a thumbs up emoji and it just appeared on screen? Yeah, that's stupid. This is the product of my computer not having that option turned up. That means if I do double thumbs up, this could be a risk. Let's see if I get fireworks. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Let's just hope that that doesn't break. Okay. All right. Enough of that. Let me turn that off. Whoops. That's an issue. That's a big. Let me make sure that that turns off entirely. That should not be on. Yeah, whatever. I can't do it. I'll deal with it later. If you see emojis, my bad. Anyway, an emoji. For those of you listening to the podcast, random visual emojis just started appearing on screen. Not what I wanted at all. Anyway, back to the LGBTQ flags. They're flying these LGBTQ flags, and what that means, of course, is that they're for maiming kids. Notice that there's no pro-children signage this weekend. Nobody was out there saying, "Hey, we need to protect kids." No, that's the opposite of what the left wants to do. The left's position on children is if they can't scramble their brains inside the womb, they'll scramble their brains after they get out. That's the plan on the left, and which is why Planned Parenthood was one of the key sponsors of this weekend's protests on Saturday. It's an absurdity. It's an absurdity. So on that front, I have to remind you that what's going on here is this is Soros funded. Soros is one of many funders, but he's a major funder of this organization, Indivisible. And in fact, through the years has given this group over nearly $8 million. That's at least according to public records that we are aware of worth of grants to this group, Indivisible. That's since 2018 alone. Now, 2018, you'll remember that's the thick of the first Trump administration. So they set up this operation during the first Trump administration. They sowed as much chaos as they could then, and now they're dusting off the old playbook, bringing everybody back out and putting a bunch of obviously paid operatives, but then simultaneously useful idiots into the streets of the United States to protest against the guy who's actually breaking the status quo. That's what they're doing. And then convincing them that they're a part of some sort of revolution. They're not a part of a real revolution. If anything, they're a part of what we normally refer to as a color revolution. A color revolution is when you have outside forces that synthetically create the appearance of a revolution in order to create chaos. The United States is accustomed to this in some regards because we have corrupt establishment members who have been doing this in various countries all around the planet, not making things more stable, instead making things more chaotic. And then applying that same playbook here in the United States. Mike Benz, who many of you will know and like, I like Mike Benz. I've had great conversations with him in the past. He says, yeah, they're tapping into the color revolution playbook. This is synthetic. It is artificial what's going on. This is not born out of some sort of actual concern for the well-being of the average American family. They don't give a damn if you can make it paycheck to paycheck. They're not concerned that America is at over $1 trillion in credit card debt. They're not concerned about the safety of our communities. That's the last thing on their mind. They like the chaos. They want to take things to an even worse level than they were under Biden, and they're applying all of this left-wing cash to do it. It's phony. It is garbage. And the incoherence of all the messages is sort of an indication of that, isn't it? Victor Davis Hanson, who is wonderful, has been talking about this. Take a look at Cut 11, Victor Davis Hanson, in his typically great analysis of what's going on in our country right now.
The Democratic Party is a party of the very wealthy professionals, the billionaire class, and the subsidized poor, and it abandoned the middle class 10, 15 years ago. All the data show that it's the party of the very wealthy. And what they're doing right now is they're creating hysteria on the left so they can empower Europe, China, and Japan and send a message. If you guys will just hold out, we're creating such anger and tension here that you can win this trade war, humiliate Trump, and then we can come back to power. And we're going to restore the globalized status quo. That's what they're doing.
Look at that. Look at that. So what is Victor Davis Hanson tapping into? VDH. He's tapping into the fact that we've got lefties in the country who are sowing chaos as a not subtle message to foreign powers, to adversaries of the United States. Just bide your time with Trump. Don't you worry about Trump's forcefulness here, his muscular tariff policies, his economic policies. Just ride it out, because we are going to introduce so much chaos in the United States that we're going to unseat the Trump administration. And when that happens, you can continue to take advantage of this country. That's the message. So when you see what just happened on Saturday, you can't disconnect it from President Trump's fight in order to right the economy. You can't separate that at all. So it's worth remembering that as you see all of the economic battles that are going on, that you've got the left really, really trying to sow chaos here as a sign to foreign powers that they stand with them. Victor Davis Hanson with that excellent assessment. More in a moment, and a lot of people liking Victor Davis Hanson here. People also saying they're glad that I'm back at a desk here. I love being back at a desk here. The chat, as always, wonderful. All right. Hey, let me tell you before I get back into some of the tariff stuff that's going on. You know, the April 15th tax deadline, it is barreling towards us. As we're doing this, it's April 7th. That means we've got 8 days, according to math that I learned many, many years ago. The April 15th tax deadline is coming very fast. Are your tax returns unfiled? Can you not pay the IRS for some reason? The IRS is more aggressive than ever, and the longer that you wait, the worse it gets. Wage garnishments, bank levies, even property seizures, they're all on the table. So you need to get ahead of this. But going up against the IRS alone, that's a mistake. So take my advice. Call the experts at Tax Network USA. They know the system, and they've got an edge, a preferred direct line right to the IRS. They know which agents to deal with and which to avoid. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, their genius strategies are designed to quickly settle your tax problems in your favor. Tax Network USA's attorneys and negotiators have already resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. Tax Network USA can help you too, but you need to move fast. April 15th, it's almost here, 8 days away. Talk with one of their strategists today with no obligation. Stop looking over your shoulder. Put this behind you. Call Tax Network USA at 1-800-958-1000. That's 1-800-958-1000. Or visit tnusa.com/Vince. All right. We've got a lot of people showing up in the chat. Bingo VDH. People are happy about this. Why is Vince not in Dan's studio? Asks Paige Razor. Thank you, Paige, for asking. It's because Dan's studio, as we understand it, is in Florida. Dan doesn't need a studio right now. Dan's busy at the FBI, but the studio that the Bonginos built, that Silverlock built, is in Florida. I am in the Washington, D.C. area, and I'm just using – this is my home studio. This is where I live. I don't live in this room, but I do come down here to do the show. And then after this – in fact, just so you know, this is the same microphone, same board, everything that I've previously guest hosted Dan Bongino's radio show on from 12 to 3 nationwide. So when I would do that, I would do it from right here in this room. And in fact, coming up later today at 12 to 3 Eastern, I will be I will be doing the show from here, the radio show. My Chimp asks, can I live in that room? My Chimp, no, I'm sorry, you can't. But thank you for asking. That's really, really nice of you. Delilah 3933 saying it's a beautiful studio, Vince. Thank you for that. And then Joe Daddy encouraging me to come down to Florida. Florida is awesome. Yeah, I've got family that live in Florida. I love Florida, and actually this is the perfect time of year to be down there in that studio. The truth is, I'm just here. And so, yeah, the markets are going through some upheaval right now. And the reason for that, there's a bunch of reasons for it, but one of them is President Trump. They think he's serious about the tariff stuff. And he is serious. If you've watched any of the president's remarks over the weekend or any of the people who are representing the president of the United States, they keep saying, hey, he's not playing around. He really, really means this. He's Very, very serious. So let me start with cut one here. This is the president of the United States. He's talking to some reporter. I don't know. I think she's with Bloomberg, actually, because he ends up asking her, where are you from? And she's like, I'm with Bloomberg. And then he's just super annoyed by her. And she asks whether or not he's intentionally tanking the markets. And he says, this is a very stupid question. Take a look.
Already in place. Now, what's going to happen with the market, I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger. And eventually, it'll be a country like no other. It'll be the most dominant country economically in the world, which is what it should be.
Is there a Trump put though? Is there pain in the market at some point? You're unwilling to tolerate this idea of a Trump put. Is there a threshold?
I think your question is so stupid. I mean, I think it's I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something, and we have such a horrible. We have been treated so badly by other countries because we had stupid leadership that allowed this to happen. They took our businesses, they took our money, they took our jobs, they moved it to Mexico, they moved it to Canada, they moved a lot of it to China, and it's not sustainable. We're not going to do it. Now we have hundreds of billions of dollars is pouring into our country on a monthly basis. It's pouring. It's already started because I put tariffs on. And eventually it's going to straighten out and our country will be solid and strong again.
Yeah. Okay. So the reporter's like, is there some point where you feel like you've done enough damage to the economy? This is the stupid question come from the Bloomberg reporter. And Trump's like, that is such a stupid question. Imagine being her. The president of the United States looks you square in the face and says, you're an idiot. What a stupid question you just asked. Does that make you feel good that you ask dumb questions like this? You're wasting. And they pay a lot of money to be on those flights. You know that? I think I've mentioned this before, but just so you know, in order for these reporters to go on an Air Force One flight, every single one of them, every body that a media outlet puts on the plane, they've got to pay first class plus $1 for a flight like that, for the typical first class ticket. So they're paying a lot of money to be on these flights, flying around with the president. Now, you might say, well, Bloomberg can afford it. Yeah, sure. But they just dumped a lot of cash into that flight. And she gets on there and she's like, hey, when are you going to stop hurting the economy? And Trump's like, you're an idiot. How about that? All right, next question. So that's my president. That's the guy. Love that guy. Really funny. All right. So he says, look, we're in this for the long haul because we've been taken advantage of. So we're going to do this the right way. Here is what I want you to see. I've got an update here. This is a Truth Social post this morning from the president of the United States. The crude oil prices are down. Take a look at this. Crude oil prices are down this morning. And the president said right away, oil prices are down. Interest rates are down. The slow-moving Fed should cut rates. Food prices are down. As you know, egg prices have gone way down. There's no inflation. The long-time abused USA is bringing in billions of dollars a week from the abusing countries on tariffs that are already in place. This is despite the fact that the biggest abuser of them all, China, whose markets are crashing, just raised its tariffs by 34% on top of its long-term ridiculously high tariffs. Plus, not acknowledging my warning for abusing countries not to retaliate. They've made enough for decades, taking advantage of the good old USA. Our past leaders are to blame for allowing this and so much else to happen to our country. Make America great again. So President Trump is pointing to, you see right up top, oil prices are down, interest rates are down, and that the Fed should cut rates. That'll be good for all of your loans. For a mortgage, it'll put people in a place where they can refinance their mortgage, get a mortgage to afford a home, have the lower monthly payments. Food prices are down. That means you can afford food in the United States, feed your family, not go into debt to do that. And he says, of course, that there's also no inflation. So he's looking at the positive indicators in the midst of all of this right now. You're seeing, as he points out, that the interest rates are coming down. That's on the 10-year Treasury rates. They are coming down very quickly, very dramatically. And the president would like to see a Fed rate cut ensue to bring the mortgage rates and all of the loan rates down all across the board. So the president saying, look, we're fixing things very, very rapidly here. And these tariffs are going to be revenue producing. People want access to the U.S. market. And he's asking for patience. He wants people not to be the party of panic. That's what he's asking for today. Literally, this morning, another Truth Social post. President Trump says, don't become a panican. A panican. He says it's virtually a political party here. The United States has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago, he said. Don't be weak. Don't be stupid. Like that Bloomberg reporter. Don't be a panican. A new party based on weak and stupid people. Be strong, courageous, and patient, and greatness will be the result. So the president's saying, hey, don't get into the panic mode here. Don't be a Chicken Little. Don't be the sky is falling. This is going to take a lot of discipline and some sense of long-term appreciation for what we can achieve as an economy. The president asking for your patience here. And also, really, that's a message for the lefties who are going absolutely bonkers right now. So more in a moment. I do want to get through some of the other guys who are out there talking about what's happening in the economy right now to give you more confidence that this is a well-considered strategy on the part of the president of the United States, who has been over the last 40 years talking about doing this very thing. Again, not a surprise. But as you know, we are in a turbulent time right now. You see some policy changes, and they do have massive impacts on the global and national economy. And for some people, as I mentioned, it can be scary. But it is possible to do something to help protect your savings right now. Diversify. You can diversify a portion of your savings into gold with the help of Birch Gold Group. I just had a call with them the other day, and Birch Gold specializes in helping you convert an existing IRA or a 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold or silver for no money out of pocket. Just listen to this great 5-star review. Knowledgeable, helpful, non-pressure. This is what you get with Birch Gold. And this is why I'm proud to endorse them. In fact, Secretary Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, was talking just the other day about what a valuable store of value gold is. You can start by getting your free info kit on gold. Just text my name, Vince, to the number 989898, and Birch Gold will send you your free info kit. There's no obligation, just useful information with an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews. You can text Vince to 989898 and let the experts at Birch Gold help you protect your future today with gold. Message and data rates apply. Yes, indeed. And then also, I am very proud of my fast-growing tree. I have a fast-growing. Let me show you if you didn't see it the other day. I've got a picture of my fast-growing tree. I just got an Eastern redbud, and I put it in the yard. Take a look here if you can. Right there. There it is. There's my redbud, my Eastern redbud. It arrived with the blooms on it. They have got this amazing shipping arrangement where the box protects the whole tree, and the tree arrives. That one's a 7-footer. You can see it's a good foot taller than I am, and all of those beautiful buds were on it. So I open up the box, and it's in full bloom, which is great. I planted it in a nice spot in the yard. I'm super happy about that, and you will be too if you go with Fast Growing Trees. My gardening friends already purchased from Fast Growing Trees, and they love it, so you should do it too. Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the United States with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers. They've got all the plants that your yard needs, like fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, and so much more. Whatever plants you're interested in, Fast Growing Trees has you covered. Also, it makes it really easy when you order. You can choose the zone if you know the zone that you live in. And if you're a plant person, you know the zone you live in. And it'll help recommend trees that fit your zone. How much better could it get? Order online and get your plants delivered directly to your door in just a few days. Their Alive and Thrive guarantee ensures that your plants arrive happy and healthy. Plus, get support from trained plant experts on call to help you plan your landscape. And this spring, they've got the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to this show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code Vince at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code Vince at checkout. Now's the perfect time to plant. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. Go to fastgrowingtrees.com for details. Yeah. All right. Yeah, people like the tree. I like the tree. The tree is great. The tree's been awesome, and I like just getting back to my house and seeing my redbud. I was like, finally, I've been wanting one of these for a long time. So thank you to Fast Growing Trees for sponsoring this program. Which, by the way, if you're watching the Rumble live stream right now, I just want to remind those of you who got here late that this show, thanks to you, is number 7 in the country. Number 7 right now. Let me do that so my face is covered. Ready? Boom. Number 7 in the country across all podcasts. Look at that. And we really should be number 5 because NPR is heavily subsidized by your tax dollars. And both of those top shows, those 2 shows up there, should be eliminated completely. So we're effectively number 5, certainly, and number 1 in the eyes, ears, and hearts of patriots everywhere. Thank you for that. This is going great. Hey, let me see. I do have more from these Trump officials who are who basically one of the big items this weekend is that all of these countries want a deal now. Over 50 countries have come forward and say, we'd like a deal, please. Can you please drop the tariffs? And at the moment, no tariffs are being dropped. Here's President Trump talking about it. Cut to President Trump talking about a lot of countries have come to me so far.
5 or 6. I've spoken to many countries. They all want to do, just so you understand the power of what I'm doing. Every country is calling and being very solicitous of us. Very, very nice. They're being very nice. And we have to be able to justify. This is not sustainable. The United States can't lose $1.9 trillion on trade. We can't do that and also spend a lot of money on NATO in order to protect European nations. We cover them with military, then we lose money on trade. The whole thing is crazy. And I got elected on that basis.
Yes.
We explained
Yes.
it. You know, the American people understand it a lot better than the media, but the media understands it. And much of the media writes correctly about it, I must say.
Well, a compliment at the air, a rare compliment for the press from President Trump. Say, yeah, there's a lot of the media. They are writing about this correct. You know, and I'm not sure what he's referencing, by the way. I haven't seen much of that coverage. Maybe he's just being nice in order to try and win some of these guys over to get some more good coverage. But here, you know, that detail that he raised, which is that, hey, the military, we protect everybody. Have you noticed? Like our job is to protect the whole damn planet. And so when the president says, I'm applying tariffs to your country, it's just that the debt is coming due. It's as simple as that. And so for those places where you're like, well, wait a second, why is he applying tariffs to places that have 0% tariffs on us? This is not reciprocal tariffs, is it? Well, think about what the president just said. The president just said, we are protecting these places. The United States gives them everything. And what do we get back? Definitely not enough. Definitely not enough. And so what we need is our get back. We need our get back. We need the debt is coming due, and President Trump is tired of being taken advantage of. So yeah, we're gonna right this ship. So we're gonna do it either in the form of tariffs over the short term, or we're gonna do it by attracting businesses into the United States of America over the longer term. And so as the tariffs go down, the tax revenues that come along with those businesses being in the United States, the thriving economy that comes with those businesses being in the United States, that's what's going to help the country. So the president is looking for a long-term corrective. He's trying to correct the health of the country. He's been describing it a lot lately. The analogy he's been using is that of a sick patient. We have a very sick country. And right now he's in the midst of doing pretty major surgery. That's again, this is his analogy, a major intervention. And now from here, the patient recovers. And yes, it'll be in fits and starts. Yes, there will be some slowness to the process. But this is something that has to happen for the long-term health of our country. And it's not just for me and you. Now, that's like lefty short-term thinking. How is this good for me? What do I get from me? No. Conservatives, we have the long view in a bunch of ways. We understand delayed gratification because typically we were raised to appreciate that. But also, we care about the well-being of our children. And then, of course, by extension, our grandchildren. What kind of country are we leaving to them? So really, is the plan that we're just going to run this country up into massive debt and then screw our grandchildren over, leave them nothing? Well, no, that's insane. To anybody who has descendants, you take the longer view. You take the longer view. Every so often, I wonder what it would be like if only parents or grandparents were allowed to vote in elections. I just wonder what would the effect be on the country? Because then you at least can guarantee the high probability that people aren't merely thinking about what can I get from me? How can I get something for me? No, this is really about taking care of our families and like raising them in a country and leaving them a better country than you found it. That's the goal. That's the goal for all of us. The president obviously talking about this. Also, Kevin Hassett was talking about all the countries who are rushing to the White House now. Cut 10. Listen to this. The president's advisor indicating, over 50 countries have come up and they're trying to get a better deal.
I got a report from the USTR last night that more than 50 countries have reached out to the president to begin a negotiation. But they're doing that because they understand that they bear a lot of the tariff. And so I don't think that you're going to see a big effect on the consumer in the US, because I do think that the reason why we have a persistent long-run trade deficit is these people have very inelastic supply. They've been dumping goods into the country in order to create jobs, say, in China.
Inelastic supply, meaning they don't have anywhere else to go. They're selling in the United States. Their portfolio is heavily weighted to U.S. consumers. Meanwhile, U.S. consumers have a lot of elasticity economically. We don't have to buy everything from China. We could go to other places, Vietnam, Singapore, the United States of America. We have options, in other words. So if you decide that we don't buy a product from one place, there are many other places to buy it. Now, not every supply chain is like that, obviously. Taiwan's a good example where we're heavily dependent on microchips that come from Taiwan. We have to bring that to the United States, and that's what the president's focused on. The president and his team are trying to attract Taiwanese investment into chip development here in the United States of America. We get too many of our pharmaceuticals from China and India right now. That's an insane arrangement. And if you learned anything from COVID, as we all learned together, being that dependent on especially China, our adversary, for critical supplies in a moment of complete national security chaos, that can't happen again. So a part of this, a huge part of this, is national security, not just economic well-being, but the long-term longevity of our country depends entirely on where do we get medicine from? Where do we get our computers from? Where do we get microchips from? Really? We have to be dependent on either China or the country that they're about to invade, Taiwan? No bueno. No bueno. Unsustainable. And so unserious people pretend like that's a totally fine arrangement. We can just do that forever. Serious people, like the guy you just elected, says that needs to be fixed pronto. We need to fix very quickly. Now, economic stuff. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent did a great interview with Tucker Carlson this past week. It's about an hour long. The whole thing is worth watching, but I've pulled out a selection for you to really take a closer look at kind of the psychology behind all of this, the way it's operating. Let's start with cut 6 here. Here's Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, saying the goal is to bring production here to the United States of America. Watch.
Goal of the tariffs, and the president says it all the time, bring your factory here. That's the best solution toward getting away from a tariff wall. So move your factory from China, from Mexico, from Vietnam, bring it here.
Yes.
So what will happen over time, we'll have substantial tariff income in the beginning. Manufacturers will build their factory here. The tariffs will drop, but the revenue from the factories, from income taxes, from all the new jobs will go up. So we'll be taking it in domestically as the tariffs drop. And why are the tariffs dropping? Because we're making it here and our trade deficit's dropping.
So you've obviously...
Okay. So let me address some of the kind of the counter arguments I saw over the weekend. I was getting a lot of messages on Instagram. One of my videos from last week, I want to say Thursday or Friday, went viral on Instagram where I was talking about like, hey, you want to avoid tariffs? Come here to the United States of America. And I was getting a lot of feedback from people all across Instagram, a lot of lefties who were weighing in here, but people generally who were concerned about what the impact would be on the economy. And as they were talking about, like, well, okay, but the reason that the factories left was because labor is so much cheaper elsewhere. And then if it comes here, labor's more expensive, and therefore the products will be more expensive. And then Americans won't be able to afford it. They're kind of making worst case scenario projections out of all of this. So President Trump fights to bring the factories back, fights to bring the jobs back, and people are crapping all over it, saying it's going to be awful. Now, a lot of that is just natural anti-Trump instinct that kind of spills out in faux analysis where people are pretending they're analyzing this on a good faith basis. They're not. They just hate Trump. Anything he's for, they're against, and they'll rationalize it. But one of the things I want to point you to that Scott Bessent says in this interview, I'm not sure if I pulled a specific clip on it, but I just want you to think about. when factories come back to the United States, it's not just human labor that's going to work there. Human labor is going to be an essential ingredient, a huge component. But the advancement in AI and robotics and automation and all of the other things that go along with modern production means what we're going to do is we're going to shorten the supply chain dramatically. We're not bringing goods across the Pacific. We're going to have them right here in the continental United States being produced. And that's going to be good for all of the industries that feed into those manufacturing centers. And it'll be good for the employees who actually work there and all of the people who live in the surrounding community that'll benefit financially from that factory being in their community. The other piece is that given modern optimization, there are massive ways to try and keep the costs down on the production while creating very high quality goods. There is a substantive difference, by the way, between things that are made in the United States and typically made in China. Have you noticed? If you've ever purchased a Chinese product, most of it is flimsy, cheap, collapsing Chinese crap. In the United States, at least we have some standards to construction, quality construction here in America. And so in the midst of all of this, they're thinking really sincerely about how do we attract all of this here and how do we keep prices down? How do we keep prices down? And if we get American energy flowing, well, that really changes so much of the equation because energy is required not only to get materials to those factories and then not only to develop those items in the factories to build the widgets. You need energy to do that, but also to ship it from the factories, to get it to you. And if you decrease energy prices at every step of the supply chain, you decrease the cost of the goods that you're purchasing in that supply chain. So there you go. There you go. Another thumbs up appearing on my screen accidentally, a little emoji. But that's what's happening here as the president is decreasing costs and refocusing on how do we make this good for America. More from Scott Bessent. Bessent says, look, the old system isn't working at all, and you need some bravery to fix it. Take a look. Cut 7. Here's Treasury Secretary Bessent.
That the old system wasn't working.
I think that's right.
And if you look at a system that's not working, you got to be brave to change it. So what wasn't working? Would it have been really fun for me to come in and just keep issuing a lot of debt? And it's almost like a bodybuilder is taking steroids.
Yep.
Outside looks great. You're muscular. Inside, you're killing your vital organs.
Yeah.
That's what was going on here. But it would have been easy to The bottom 50% of households,
Term
their
one.
net worth increased faster than the top 10% of households.
It's proof of concept.
And look, I'm not happy with what's going on in the market today, but the distribution of equities across households, the top 10% of Americans own 88% of equities.
Right.
88% of the stock market. The next 40% owns 12% of the stock market. The bottom 50 has debt. They have credit card bills. They rent their homes. They have auto loans, and we've got to give them some relief. That I was struck by the statistic from last year.
That's the message right there. Just as a bystander, I'm like, wow, okay.
All right. Or that.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to live paycheck to paycheck. You shouldn't be in $1 trillion of credit card debt. Our country's in over $1 trillion of credit card debt right now. Never before seen. Never before seen. And you can thank the Biden administration for that. They created so much inflation, they destroyed your ability to afford your life. So that people they don't have an emergency fund. They have no money to turn to. Their paycheck doesn't last 2 weeks. So they go into debt. They accrued a lot of credit card debt in the process. And now there's all sorts of defaults going on. It's a bad situation. And President Trump said, wait a second, I was elected to help those people. That's who I was elected by. It's not to help Wall Street out, which, the mistake that can often be made is that we say, oh, well, Wall Street is the economy. No, it's not. The economy is you and me. The economy is the American people. The Biden administration spent 4 years lying about the state of it, pretending like things were going great. They weren't. And you didn't need a government report to tell you that. Okay. Let's get into what's going on with the FBI right now, because I want to bring up some of the drama at the FBI that's going on at the moment. There are reports that a new assistant director in charge at the Washington field office is a fellow called Steve Jensen. Steve Jensen, according to all of the people who watched January 6th stuff really closely, all of the legal experts on the subject, said that he was a very bad actor, that he was the kind of guy who was a part of the persecutions of January 6ers and a whole lot of other things too. Steve Baker is a reporter for The Blaze. He was arrested and prosecuted by the Biden administration for covering the events of January 6th. And he's very concerned about this. But he's still, as of yesterday, he's referring to this as an alleged hiring of a rabid anti-J6er called Steve Jensen to be at the Washington field office. And so again, alleged. And he says, I know it kind of pisses people off when the bad guys get it right and the assumed good guys get it wrong. But our sources inside the FBI and in Congress have absolutely confirmed the hiring of Jensen as the FBI Washington field office assistant director in charge. He says it's absolutely true, according to his sources. Jensen's sins don't stop with January 6th. He was also the section chief of domestic terrorism for the FBI. He would have been the final to approve things like 1, white supremacy equals the number one threat to the homeland, 2, that parents are terrorists at school board meetings, and 3, that he considered January 6ers to be terrorists, quote, who almost took down democracy. Well, that's absurd. It's buffoonish that the guy in the Viking horn standing on the Senate dais didn't take control of the country, didn't take down democracy, as you know. So Steve Baker's position right now is I would admonish all Trump supporters to voice their opposition to the appointment of Steve Jensen as the FBI Washington field office assistant director in charge. That's the core element here for Steve Baker's assessment. Now, having said that, I want you to hear from the the deputy director of the FBI, Dan Bongino now. Fellas, how about this? Should I pull up I'll pull up his tweet. Oh, you've got it? Okay, good. Let's start with as I dive back into work. That's his first tweet this weekend. Can you pull that up for me? So FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino said, heading back to D.C. today. There you go. After spending the weekend, spending just a day, with his wife and daughter, the lovely Paula Bongino and his daughter. And he says, as I dive back into work, I want to reassure you that nothing that is happening here, that would be at the FBI, is happening by accident. Because of the sensitivity of what the FBI deals with, both the director and I have to be circumspect in what we can make public. Bad guys read this stuff too. Neither one of us came here to play games. Measure us by results. That's critical here. Regardless of who got hired where or for whatever reason, that is the most important line I think that Dan expresses in this series of tweets. Measure us by results, he says. He's asking you to measure the results. You will see them. But just because you don't see something happening right this second doesn't mean it isn't happening. I'll conclude by stating that not every result is going to please everyone. That's just pandering. It's not leadership. Complex problems require diligence and a reform-oriented process to create lasting changes. Or else you're simply putting a bandage on a gushing wound. Let's do it right. God bless America and all those who defend her, says Dan. And then he follows up. This, just to give a clear picture here, Dan is coming back. I would presume he tweeted this from whatever plane he was on. He's coming back from his visit to his family, and he's obsessing over what you're concerned about right now. He's obsessing over it. And he's not directly referring to this Washington field office hire, but it does feel like he's speaking to us about this. He says, quote, I'd like to add this. Your comments and your criticisms are not only welcome, they're helpful. We work for you, the American people. Your feedback is invaluable. All I ask is that you consider the following feedback to the feedback. When you see something happen and the entire story is not public and the underlying facts aren't all public, it may appear counterintuitive to our reform agenda. That, by the way, that seems like the critical line from this X post. It may appear counterintuitive to our reform agenda. If you're sitting there going, why'd they hire this guy? I thought this guy was one of the bad actors. Quote, it may appear counterintuitive to our reform agenda, says Dan. I promise you it's not an accident. Ask yourself, why would I sign on to something like this otherwise? Is it a desire to be wealthy, famous, connected? By the way, he had all that. He didn't need to do this for that. Or to be a future lobbyist? If that sounds ridiculous, it's because it is, says Dan. I realized when I signed up, I'd never be able to fully explain some decisions that we make due to legal and ethical constraints. But that's a pill I agreed to swallow when I swore in. In conclusion, I realize asking you to trust me is a waste of time, he says. I don't think it's a waste of time for everybody. Chat, is it a waste of time for Dan to ask you to trust? Give me a reaction here. Do you want him? I think it's a perfectly good use of his time to ask you for some trust here, because you already do trust him. Watch what happens. Yeah, people are good. Yeah, hell no, it's not a waste of time. Good. Watch what happens, says Dan. Continue to demand results. Be cautious of narrative traps. Let time put the puzzle pieces together, and what we are doing will make sense. I see and I hear you and your feedback. Thank you for your time, Dan. Yeah, people saying, I trust Dan. Me too. I said it the second I found out he was doing this, and from our very first show, we've talked about this, that the decision that Dan made to walk away from this show, to walk away from the Dan Bongino show, to walk away from that and to go into the FBI and to put his private life, which is very successful, on hold in order to jump into the FBI and focus on that job, that says a lot about that man's character. And I have to tell you, having gotten to know Dan on a personal level and knowing everybody around him who knows him even more sincerely on a personal level, everybody trusts him innately. Which is why when I hear from him, I'm good with it. And there you go. Dan Bongino, the FBI Deputy Director, sending out a message to you, crystal clear. He's speaking to you. He wants you to hear him. Who's asking me if I watch the chat? If I watch the chat personally? Oh, okay, good. Yeah, no, I do watch the chat. I keep an eye on the chat. I've got the chat. It's right here. Chat's right here. Oh, we're live, baby. Well, when you finally listen to this, if it's pre-recorded, I'll be lying to you. So yeah, then it'll be pre-recorded. But right now we're live on Rumble, and if you're listening to this pre-recorded, join us again on Rumble tomorrow. That would be Tuesday in this fine country. We start at 10 a.m. every day Eastern time. Join us, rumble.com/Vince. Great to have you with us today. On Rumble, things are heading over to Steven Crowder right now. God bless you. I'll be back tomorrow.
You know, my neighbor, old Mrs. Whitby, she refinanced with American Financing, saved a bundle.
Oh, that's nice. Now, what does that have to do with this story right now? This is live. We're on live radio.
Well, they both saved.
Great. In other news, in the latest study, nutritionists say you won't believe what's hidden in your children's lunch meat.
You know, with American Financing, there's no hidden fees.
New studies show...
My wife was hiding things from me.
Studies show...
A separate checking and savings account.
Let me guess. A secret lover, too. Huh? Can I get
How did you know?
A big one?
Was it you?
Oh, everyone saw that dime store floozy for the harlot that she was.
You adultering bastard!
I'm not an adult. I wouldn't touch that broad with his dick.
Hey!
I'm sorry. You know I like you. It's just his wife's a slut.
You're right.
No.
I'm sorry. I just get so worked up. It's...
What is with... No, don't say it. Fight back. Have a backbone. This is the problem. The reason your wife wants a man that she can have a volley with. You can't have a volley if you're just mush.
I'm still wearing the ring.
Yes, because you're a loser.
This guy can't get it off.
What are you on about?
Fingers got too fat.
I don't know if I feel bad for you or just want to spit on you. Move on with my day.
I haven't showered in weeks. That'd be nice.
You know, I never told this story. But one time I actually hit a small boy with my car. Call American Financing today at 1-800-974-6500 or visit AmericanFinancing.net/Crowder. No upfront fees. Close in as fast as 10 days, and you could even delay up to 2 mortgage payments. NMLS 182334.
Glad to be with you today. I apologize. I'm a little out of sorts. Anyone out there know what beta-alanine is? It's something that they put in like pre-workout and explode ass type thing.
What?
And
I only know alpha-alanine, bro.
I just realized it was in this thing that I had that was sent as a sample, and now my eyebrows and ears are itchy. Anyone ever experienced that? Like,
yeah, it makes you want to lift weights.
Yeah, it doesn't make me want to lift weights. It makes me want to scratch like Wolfman. I know I asked you about currency manipulation, but let me ask you this. We are going to be discussing tariffs today because the market was up, was down. During run-through, we didn't even know what numbers we were going to use in today's show because of the volatility. But that also kind of makes the point. Let me ask you this. What do you think the biggest motivations behind these tariffs are? And do you think they'll be effective? Is this a necessary adjustment or is it a misstep? You do have people on both sides, by the way, including just on the right today. And I think some folks are doing a great disservice to you. I know you have portfolios. I know you have retirement. I know that you have investments. And I know that this either can be affecting you right now or could potentially affect you. And you want to know which way is up. And unfortunately, not everyone's honest. It's a live show, weekdays 11 a.m. We don't have to worry about the YouTube dump button because we're only live on Rumble. Kevin Morgan, CEO, how are you?
Tranny. Sorry, I feel freedom.
Well, we're addressing John Oliver tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah, we were going to do it today, but of course the markets went nuts. John Oliver did a 42-minute installment on transgender athletes. But you need to stop making it an issue. Gaslighting is overused, but it was never an issue. Men competed against men and women competed against women. And now you're making it a thing. And we're saying, hey, don't make it a thing. So now you're saying that we're making it a thing by saying don't make it a thing? Just how about no one has ever made it a thing? Men compete against men. Women compete against women.
Deal.
We'll address it tomorrow. I guarantee you I know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's you're making a mountain out of a molehill. You're turning it into a culture war issue. But let me spend 42 minutes making the case. So that's exactly what it is. We'll address it tomorrow and Friday, Saturday, May 23rd, 24th at Goodnight's Comedy Club in Raleigh, North Carolina. Nice spot, Josh Firestein.
Hi. Yeah, I can't believe they're making me a feminist.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like fighting for women here. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, that's true.
A part of me goes the other way too, where I'm like, you know what? It was women who wanted men and women's sports. Deal with it.
There are no more divisions.
Yeah.
It's just sports.
I'll make the case theoretically. Like, this is why it's silly. But you know what? I think you should probably have to face a biological man in a contact sport. You're welcome, feminism.
Good luck.
So here's well, it segues right into this.
Combat sport, like what? Dueling?
Yeah, exactly. Even with pistol dueling, I bet you men would be better. I know what you're thinking. Hey, that's sexist. Are men better than women at everything? Well, to you, I would say, last night, Harriet Hines beat Lucy Smith to win the Ultimate Women's Pro Series event too, but both of them are men.
Let's talk about the Ultimate Pool Women's Pro Series event. It was in Wigan on Sunday night, and after numerous women had competed in this pro pool tournament, the tournament came down to the final. The two finalists, Harriet Haynes and Lucy Smith, battled it out. In the end, it was Harriet Haynes that won. What is really, really bizarre, though, is that neither Harriet nor Lucy is actually a woman. So why on earth were they competing in a women's pro pool event? Why? Well, because they claim to be women.
I do appreciate her candor.
Yes.
I thought what is really bizarre, though, is the two cooks.
And she's in jail.
Yes.
It has to be two women or 2 men in a women's sport for us to even talk about pool.
Didn't we just have Strangio just last week saying there are no male athletes in female sports because now they redefine it and they say there's no such thing as a trans woman. You're just a woman. And I know what you're thinking. Why are men better than women at pool? You would think that would be.
I didn't think that was going to be. I thought, okay, come on, pool, help me out here. And when you said it, I was like,
I'll tell you exactly what it is.
It's the more the merrier. You got 8 balls, now you got +4.
Don't get them started on snooker.
Jeez.
That's just an orgy. Now, I don't know anything about snooker other than it's a bigger table. You don't need to teach me. I don't care. It's men occupy the ends of the bell curve. A lot of people don't necessarily know this. So it's true. Women, on average, have a couple points higher IQ in that bulk of the curve. At a certain point, so before women get mad and say this is sexist, men occupy almost 100% of the violent prisons, right? Serial killers, gang members. But at a certain point, there are only male geniuses. Almost 100%. Men occupy both ends of the bell curve because we have more extreme personalities. It requires an almost obsessive-like devotion to a sport to be excellent. And that lends itself to the male personality type, not to mention spatial awareness, reaction time. So yeah, even some sports that aren't necessarily requiring of great physicality, men do better. It's not fair no matter what you're playing. Darts, we win. Do you understand it, ladies? There will be nothing left, including Woman of the Year. So Haynes took home.
I mean, they've already won it once at least.
Twice.
Twice.
Okay.
What?
And it's the only qualifier. Like it's in other words, like, oh, what men are better. Okay, yeah, well, okay, swimming, I guess it may. All right, obviously MMA, boxing, okay, wrestling. All right, fine. Pool, still. Darts. All right, how about this? Just be a Woman of the Year. Just be a woman. Guy still wins your bullshit.
Pickleball. Bonus points if you have your own pickle.
Yes, exactly. BYOP. So Haynes took home $2,305 for winning, and Smith, another man, semifinalist, took home $1,153 for second place. With their combined winnings, they still couldn't afford a pool table.
Luck is for dudes. By the way, I need to admonish you. This was in England, so those were pounds and not dollars.
Those were pounds?
So maybe it's admonished.
No, we did the conversion.
Translated.
No, we did the conversion.
We did the conversion.
Hey, hold on a second.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes.
Dang it. Yeah, we did the conversion, Gerald.
I took it, but I redirected it like a Hadouken.
You can't redirect a Hadouken.
Don't let me do a flaming Hadouken.
Okay, play with Finn, whatever your gay character is.
Gerald's glue.
Fei Long.
That's right.
Fei Long, you know it. And it's the only time I beat you. So here's the thing. Sometimes the pendulum is swinging the right way, but like we saw this last week with fencing, the left can't help themselves. They can't. Just know, when you are voting Democrat, you are voting for men and women's sports, to be clear. You are voting for the most extreme abortion policies. You are voting for speech. They cannot help themselves. They'll say that you're turning it into an issue. Pin them down. And I mean this. When you talk with someone in real life, pin them down. So you would support no biological men in women's sports ever. They can't do it. They can't. Unfortunately, some of these people then become heads of organizations. We saw it with the Olympic Committee. This is what we saw just in 2024. Haynes, the man who won, was pouting. This is 1 year ago that he could not compete in the She's pool event.
Last year, I was removed from the English Blackpool Pool Federation's female category.
The
They
Males League
removed
exists.
Trans women from competing against biological women.
An ugly one.
The music they play, like it's Schindler's List. I couldn't hit the 8 ball. This is your civil rights struggle?
I couldn't beat the piss out of women.
Can someone please, look, okay, how about this? Look, if you want to compare yourself to civil rights, fine. You can compete in the women's division, provided when you show up to that pool table, there is a German Shepherd and fire hose awaiting you, okay?
Jeez.
It's such an affront to the actual civil rights movements that we've had. By the way, the ban on trannies is not because of the danger related to them winning, but the danger related to them losing, as we saw. Yeah, look, they're very... And he didn't even chalk the cue first.
Oh, disrespect.
Disrespect.
You got to chalk that thing up for at least 45 seconds.
Yes, exactly. I don't even know that it does anything. I don't play pool.
It's the
something.
Grip strength.
Yeah, it causes an infection.
I don't think that's our primary concern at this point.
It makes it go.
You guys can let me know who's making this an actual issue. And I'm never going to stop mocking it until it is no longer an issue. How about that? Because it's fun, and I think it's funny. I think pee-pees, where there should only be hoo-has, is funny. Okay? I still think it's funny. I'll always think it's funny. And I hate that our society has come to this.
Have you seen one? They look funny.
They do. They are. Look.
We should look together later.
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, we should have a watch party.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
No.
Over by the pool table.
Yeah.
Or is it snooker?
We don't have a pool table.
Hey, by the way, best way to follow us, download the Rumble app and follow us on Rumble. You get notified only when we are live. It's Rumble. We own live. There is no algorithm that severs the tie. So if you're on, well, no one's seeing it. Well, they might see it as a clip. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, just go follow on Rumble. You actually get to watch what it is that you choose. And let's go into the Trump protests. And I know you have something you want to plug later. So did you see this? Before we get to the tariffs, there were organized protests against, take a guess, correct, Donald Trump, Elon Musk. They happened across the country and a few other major cities. This was on Saturday.
Across the U.S. and the world, more than 1,400 protests on Saturday, according to organizers, telling U.S. President Donald Trump and his advisor Elon Musk, hands off.
Hands off Canada! Hands off Greenland!
It's like an afterthought.
It's the one resident.
Like, you think about it, when the Tea Party happened after Barack Obama, they were, I was there, they were proposing very specific policies.
Yes.
And they elected, people, they actually got people into political office, and it was a movement. In this case, what do you think? You're just going to say hands off Canada, hands off Donald Trump? Well, since you said so.
He doesn't even have his hands on them, though, right now. He's like, hey, you guys should probably vote Greenland to come in and be a part of America. We'll see what happens. Canada, you guys will be better as a state, right? Like, that's it.
It's like a preschool teachers convention.
Well, and the protest was literally called Hands Off.
I know.
Hands off. This of course goes back to, hands off my posse. That was the thing with the vagina hats. It's like, this is the 2016 retread. It's San Francisco 60s retreads using punchline slogan retreads from 2016.
They still have the signs, Stephen. Like, you got to put them to use.
Yeah, exactly.
Hands off the bloated government.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, there we go.
It's the civil rights issue of our time, and dudes playing pool against women. So the official Hands Off website, they have a partners list. And of course, you see the usual suspects, the ACLU, the labor unions, the Arab American Institute, the Bend the Arc Jewish Action, LGBTQAIP groups, Planned Parenthood, and some accidental support, this time from one George McFly.
Oh, hey, you, get your damn hands off her.
He's nervous.
He meant to be at the pool tournament.
Guys, are you getting the picture? Remember when Nancy Pelosi said the Tea Party was AstroTurf? When the left accuses you of something, they're telling on themselves. When they say you're turning trans athletes, male athletes competing against women, when you're turning that into a cultural issue, they're telling on themselves. When they say, oh, actually, this is AstroTurf from the MAGA crowd, they're telling on themselves. This is very clearly AstroTurf, NGO-supported protest. This is not grassroots. That's why you haven't really heard of it. That's why no one has actually attended it. And I just don't think it works anymore. I remember I was on Joe Rogan's show, 2016, 2017, where he said, well, the big pussy march, that was a big thing. And I said, it wasn't grassroots. That was from the top down. And he was surprised. We know it now. Just remember this. This is always what the left does.
Well, they're not even actually promoting anything, protesting anything real right now.
I know.
Hands off Social Security. He said he was going after fraud in Social Security. He didn't say anything about any benefits, and so did Donald Trump. He's like, I'm not going to touch that. I already told you about Greenland and Canada, so what are we out here yelling about? I don't think anybody knows.
Stop changing the color of the sky.
Oh, yeah, what? Hands off my chemtrails? I don't know.
I have no idea. Well, anyway, maybe we'll get some more context with some highlights here from the Hands Off trademark 2025 protests.
I am an immigrant. I am
That's a huge bitch.
I'm afraid, queer, and unashamed.
And the
Should be.
Where'd you immigrate from, Charlie? Chocolate Factory?
Hands Off Boston March, and it is the slowest march I have
Told his
ever
dentist,
been
hands
in.
off my teeth.
Hands off my broom.
Oh, geez. Hands off the Cheetos.
Hands off women for him.
We are the litigate. Okay.
This morning, the sex puppet.
Out of fascism looks like.
Yes, thank you, Chinese spy banger in chief Eric Swalwell. So, kicking the out of fascism is trannies and puppets. I mean,
Sex pulpit.
sex puppets.
They're people.
This is the left has no message, and they have no messengers. For proof, see the protest that involved drum circles, trannies, puppets, and their messenger, Eric Swalwell. I don't know if they ever win again. And here's the thing, too. We used to think of it as a youth movement, right? That has shifted dramatically. I'm a millennial where, of course, they were very, very left-wing. Gen Z is the most conservative generation at this point in their life, meaning 20-year-olds, young people, than any we have seen really in the last at least 3/4 of a century. So if you were looking for some young people, some enthusiasm at these protests, you're not the only one.
I'm at the protest right now in New York City, anti-Trump, anti-fascist protest, and I have one question. Where the is Gen Z? These people are cheering, they're talking like it's just the 60s, it's just like the 60s, and they're having conversations and walking slowly. There's no fight here. There's no youth here. It's all 30-somethings and their children. Barely
Sounds
any
older than that.
teenagers ever. Like, these, oh my God. I can't even. Like,
Try
where
to
are you
even.
going if you're not going to the protest right now?
Anywhere. They're going anywhere that's not the protest. And by the way,
Somewhere
she
with
says,
their friends, you lonely bitch.
Oh, jeez.
yes, you not without my daughter retread. This is she says it's like from the 60s and they're 30-something with their kids. I will say this. Being someone in my 30s, this is the first generation you will have young people, particularly young liberals, who will go, okay, boomer, to someone who's like 32 or to someone who is like 29. This is the first time where you have young people who think you are old and out of touch in your 30s. That wasn't actually
I have a theory. I think it's because if you're in your 30s, you were born in the 90s or 80s, which makes it a different century.
Okay, the turn of the century.
So we're 20th century kids.
So do you think that
we're old?
Was that what it was like kids who were born in 1901?
Yeah, they were antiquated.
Listen to your old 19th century rhetoric. You don't know what it's like being raised in today's youth.
Nobody cares about Gettysburg.
That's right.
We care about Pittsburgh.
That's right. We've been emancipated. Get with the program. I have 14 brothers and sisters, and 12 of them died by being kicked from a horse.
Oh, look, a motor car.
Yeah. So to give you an idea, though, Generation Z, we've seen this, right? In 2024, 46 went for Trump, 52% for Harris. Now, that's a huge number when you look at people under 30 compared to any other election, pretty much ever. And it's even more glaring when you look at Gen Z men, 56% for Trump, 42% for Harris. Typically, young people become more conservative. They don't become more liberal. These are kids who are voting for Donald Trump before they even pay taxes, before they have families. So it's not all doom and gloom. There is a silver lining. I think they see the absurdity.
Yeah, and we talk about that all the time, that once you get older, you get out into the workforce, you have to have a job, you have to pay taxes, you start raising a family. that you become very conservative very fast typically.
Yeah.
You see those numbers now, that's very heartwarming because
I think
for
it's
a while
less-
there it was looking pretty bad.
I
Okay.
think it's less them becoming more conservative and just being disgusted with the left.
I think that's part of it.
With what the Democratic Party's doing, and then it's quickly making them go, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't be siding with these people." What are they saying on the other side?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the left just can't. Again, they just can't help themselves. Probably, you were raised in, kind of on the West Coast there, up in Washington area. You think about back then, okay, gay marriage, that was kind of okay, a social issue. People are like, I'm socially liberal. But now, if you're voting Democrat, you have to be voting for sex surgeries, for violent inmates, and for biological men to compete in women's contact sports and not even fill out a form stating they're biological. The disconnect is so wide. I've got to imagine that young men are in high schools today. And please, I know there are a ton of you who watch. If you're in that generation and you are, for example, in a public school, how do people in your class treat the transgender, queer, pansexual furry in your class? How do you guys deal with it? You just go, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Is there a rejection of it? Is that why we're seeing this divide between, again, young men and women? I've got to imagine that they're living with it going, this is absurd.
Yeah, you're right. This view has
absurd.
changed. When we were, teenagers or young adults, it was, the saying was, yeah, it's not Adam and Steve. I'm like, oh, that's fine. It's not a big deal. But now it's like, oh, Adam's in Eve's cell.
Yes.
That's
getting her pregnant in prison.
Yeah. And Eve used to also be Adam as well. And I don't know how she got pregnant.
I'm very confused.
That just makes sense.
Why is the warden a cat? What's happening?
Their prison should just be they have to be completely normal in whatever gender
Yes,
they
exactly.
actually are.
Yeah,
How?
exactly. We're not even going to put you in a prison.
No.
We're just going to put you on a routine where you're going to get up at the same time. You're going to eat 3 square meals a day. You're going to exercise. You're going to do your word jumble, some Sudoku. So,
problem will take care of itself.
Speaking of discipline, we'll move on here to the markets and tariffs and the reason why. But before that, obviously, at opening bell this morning, markets went red. And then they went up, and then they went down again. And I don't know where we are right now.
Down.
They've gone up, down, up, down. There's a lot of volatility, and I understand that creates a lot of uncertainty. And I understand why a lot of you may be worried. But that brings us to the word of the day right now that you are seeing the media use, circuit breaker.
Japan, the UK has suspended its stock futures due to a circuit breaker, and trading has been suspended there.
The Korean stock market tumbled during early trade on this Monday with a circuit
I
breaker
did not
going
expect that
into
voice.
effect briefly in the morning to ward off panic selling.
We also saw a number of markets like Japan actually enact circuit breakers today.
The rapid rate decline put the stock market at risk of triggering a circuit breaker.
It's something you need, right? You need sort of a circuit breaker, I guess.
Had we got to 7, we would have hit the circuit breaker. They would have turned the lights out on the market.
That's not true.
To try to save us from ourselves.
Good night, sweet bitch. Now, I really didn't expect that voice from the Korean lady.
No.
I expected like, Korean market bad! Sell! Fire! So what this is actually addressing, circuit breaker is, it defines the pause, right?
Yes.
The pause that takes place in trading when prices drop too fast in the market. So it kind of gives everyone a little bit of a break to let things calm down. Let me explain kind of the triggers to you. So if in a single day, the S&P drops 7%, there's a 15-minute circuit breaker, a 15-minute pause in trading across all the stock market indexes. If there's a 13% drop, there's another 15-minute pause. And if there's a 20% drop, trading ends for the day. That's really what it is. And sometimes they're saying circuit breaker and they keep anticipating circuit breaker. You're almost like, I think you almost want a circuit breaker is how this kind of sounds. I mean, it's almost like you guys sell fear and panic. But remember for those of you at home, breaking the circuit can be dangerous, as we saw in overseas markets this weekend.
3, 2, 1.
So don't do that.
It's a new firework.
I love you're right. The fear porn right now is everywhere. Everybody's talking about how the market is down. And it was funny because we were watching CNN talk about how bad the markets were as the stock market had trended up.
Right.
And it was up 300 points on the NASDAQ and the Dow roughly. And they were trending all over the place, but they're not covering that stuff. So just calm down. Anybody, I know what our demographics of our audience are right now. I know what you are. Don't worry. could suck. And we'll get into that in the next segment for just a little while, but don't worry. And if you're an old person retiring, that's not so great, but you should probably be in something that's less volatile right now anyway, if you move the market around. Yeah. So that's the thing. But CNN would have you believe that the world is coming to an end. And so would social media, to be honest.
And this is not the first time that this has happened.
No.
So to be clear, kind of getting to this, before we get into why it's actually better for you to not panic right away, please, I've seen some people out there going, I'm pulling everything out. So buy high and sell low. There's an interesting strategy. Just
locking in those losses.
Yes, exactly. Just hold on a little bit. But there are some reasons for the tariffs. We talked about this really for the last several months, saying there's going to be some discomfort. And that's not to minimize the discomfort. But at a certain point, you do have to understand and you do have to make a choice. Okay, do we want to live in a world where we continue to lose our manufacturing, where we continue to lose our national economy because of a foreign communist adversary who is subsidizing industry with the expressed goal of destroying our national economy? At some point, there needs to be a change, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to get to why this has taken place. Before we get to that, though, the panic. Okay, let me just give you some very clear historical context. In 2008, right, it was way worse than this. Let's grab this overlay. In 2008, there was a point, if you look there, you go, oh my gosh, look, this is terrible. I have to sell. The market it's done. But then if you just zoom out, if you'd have done nothing, look, you would have more than doubled. In some case, if you were in the dip, tripled your money. Let me be really clear. The market wins out. There are people out there who want to pick stocks and give you a hot ticket. They don't do any better than a monkey throwing darts at a board. Random walk. That is true. But then there are people who tell you, and putting anything in the stock market is it's like playing roulette. It's like playing the lottery. No, it is not. The market over time will always win out if you rebalance and if you're disciplined and you don't panic. Okay? That is one thing that is constant. It's something that Toolman has talked about, that people here were very conservative in our investment strategy with our wealth. If you panicked and sold, and there were some people who did that in 2008, that's the wrong. Let me give you again, COVID. Yeah. Remember COVID? There's a day, oh my gosh, it's done, it's over. Some people panicked and sold. Okay, I've lost everything. Now let's just zoom out a couple of years. If you did nothing, you not only get it all back, you would have gotten it all back and significantly outpaced the inflation that followed.
This happens every single time. Every single time. And I have been on some calls with some of the best minds out there who talk about investing for some other stuff that I've done. And they are honest. They're like, you want to look at these trends? You want to look at those trends? Fine, you can look at those trends. You know what it is? Time in the market. Period. Right. Doesn't matter. Just put your money in and leave it in as long as you possibly can.
And I say this because we would be doing you a disservice if we, and I know that some of you will be upset at this anyway and say that I'm a Wall Street shill. I'm not. I absolutely am not. And I hate that Wall Street wants to privatize profits and socialize losses. Yeah. That is not capitalism. No. It is not free enterprise. I am a conservative in spite of the crony capitalism that we have seen in this country. I am a conservative as it relates to healthcare. I'm anti-socialized healthcare in spite of effectively the pseudo-nationalization that we've seen with insurance companies. Okay, that is not free market capitalism. It sucks today. It may suck for a while. It's painful, and I understand that, but discipline is just as important today as it was yesterday, and it will be tomorrow. Okay, this will pass, and it's been a lot worse for significantly longer periods of time. This is not unexpected as it relates to the tariffs. It would never be consequence-free, but this doesn't change the reason that they had been implemented in the first place, which brings us to the latest installment of the Tarifier. Still the best thing I've potentially ever seen.
Gotta get that